If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Greetings, Internet. Welcome. Dag sê, goed om julle hier te hê. Yep, that's great to have you here. I'm telling you, a bit of magic has happened here at Legacy Conversations. I think I have pulled the rabbit out of the hat. The rabbit is out. I have the honor and the privilege of speaking with a lad. I'm going to call him a lad because I think he's a real gentleman lad, actually. I'll call him a gentleman lad. This gent has allowed me to ask him to come and chat with us about the South African Military Veterans Organization, SAMVO, as we all refer to it. Now, in different time zones around the world, it may be SAMVO this, SAMVO E, SAMVO USA, whatever. We have here today the founder of the organization, Tony McKay. Have I got that right? No, I haven't. I'll ask Tony to...
No, it's perfect.
And also to tell us where that unique surname originates. I'm sure he's going to do that. It's about as bad as me and my love for French Bordeaux wines. So somewhere around there. Any case, sir, I really, really, really appreciate this. And also, I am honored that you are gracing us with your presence here. I'm going to pipe up and I'm going to ask you to please take the floor and entertain us for the next however long it takes for you to get the message across. Remember, I'm sort of slow some days, so you might have to re-emphasize a few points so that I can understand. Thank you and welcome here.
Good day, Fossey, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about the South African Military Veterans Organization, which has a neat acronym of SAMVO. I'd like, first of all, to congratulate Legacy Conversation Channel and you and Chris Kotzer in particular for an outstanding platform and this opportunity and the vision you have to make this available to veterans to tell their stories. In my case, to tell your channel followers about SAMVO. It might interest Chris to know that there are many Kufut and SAP Coin members who belong to SAMVO. A bit about me as a person. I'm just a country boy who grew up outside a small town of Harding in KwaZulu-Natal. Who probably spoke Zulu before I did English. I'm now retired, again as a country boy, often years around cities, but now in Gippsland, Australia, about an hour and a half to the east of Melbourne. I was a war baby, born in 1944 in the United Kingdom, from a British mum and a South African dad. My South African dad actually came from French heritage, hence the peculiarity of my surname. My dad was in the Fleet Air Arm, and he flew torpedo bombers off aircraft carriers and off airfields during D-Day. I've always found this very impressive. He later served in the commandos as SO3 in Perth Group 9 in Richmond, Natal. I was 9 months old when Mum and I arrived in Durban, and we moved to a trading store 10 miles from Harding, where I grew up with my 4 siblings, me being the eldest. In Civvy Street, my background was in technical textiles, and I became a specialist in precious metal extraction through filtration media in both wet and dry applications. My work took me to most mining countries around the world, with me landing up working for the last 18 working years in and out of Australia. I've been retired since 2013. Why the passion for my service? Well, I think it's because I enjoyed 32 years of service, first in 1963 as a conscript for 4 years, which I then extended as a volunteer in 1967, becoming an extended serviceman, completing my service in 1995 in the SANDF. I was simply a guy who loved his country, knew it would change in time, but believed in controlled change. After matric, I was called up into the commandos, qualified through to the ranks to Company 2RC, before being asked by my OC to switch to the intelligence corps. I did the same in intelligence, qualifying first at unit level, then as SO2 Enter Group 18 in Johannesburg, before moving back to being an intelligence officer in 2 Transvaal Scottish. During my 4 years with Group 18, I found that I was a younger officer amongst older officers, which wasn't a problem, but I yearned to be closer to the action at unit level, so I jumped at the opportunity when invited to join 2TS as IO. 2TS was then moved from under command of Group 18 to 72 Brigade, which is under command of Far North Command. After a few years as IO, I was asked to transfer back into the Infantry Corps, so I course qualified to Company Commander and completed my service as Support Company Commander. So I completed my service in 1995 when I was job hunted for within my industry, which required me to move to Australia. The organisation, there's probably 2 statements that characterise the formation of the South African Military Veterans Organisation of Australasia that had the acronym of SAMVOA. SAMVOA was long in the making, yet I am reminded that Garth Pienaar once said, "If you had not started it, I would have." No doubt he or someone would have, because it needed starting. And it just did not seem right that almost every other nation was represented on Anzac Day, and there were no South Africans marching, particularly when South Africans fought alongside Australians and New Zealanders in 2 world wars and in Korea, with 2 South Africans killed in action in Vietnam. Secondly, it was important to note that SAMVOA had predecessors who were South African veterans who had marched in Melbourne and probably elsewhere prior to 1996, but they were an older group of World War I and World War II veterans who by 1996 were simply too old to even travel by vehicle, and they had fallen away. So around 1998, I contacted and spoke to their leader, Major Norval, confirmed that their group had become too old to march, and he was delighted that a younger group was interested, although at that stage I was the only South African pitching up. So how and why did I start SAMVO? First of all, as I said, I started SAMVO, where the A represents Australasia. I had an Australian airborne contact who brought airborne veterans from around the world to South Africa. On his itinerary, he included the View, the regimental home of the Transvaal Scottish, which housed both the 1st and 2nd Battalions. This was a highlight venue for these visiting groups, at a venue housing in a magnificent 1902 building built by Thomas Cullinan of Cullinan Diamond fame, which has an outstanding museum and always had a piper ready to strut his stuff. We kept contact, and when my work landed me in Melbourne, I looked him up, and he turned out to be the organiser of the expeditions in the Melbourne Anzac Day marches, which takes place incidentally on the 25th of April each year. It's a public holiday here. From 1996 to 2003, I turned up at the Commonwealth section, hoping that another South African would pitch, but none did. As a result, I marched with the expeditions. It was my friend Mike Doyle who encouraged me to start a South African group in 2003, I started organising in earnest, and we designed the logo and I wrote the constitution. I'd been the secretary of the South African Scottish Regiments Association, which was a member of the SAMVO. I therefore was into constitutions and the workings of the SAMVO. As a result, SAMVO became a full member of the SAMVO in 2007, when it became apparent that SAMVO as an organisation had hit the spot and would endure as a veteran organisation. So the organisation today, we're an organisation that recognises and thanks our members for their service. We're a bottoms-up organisation where we take our directions from grassroots, our membership. We have members who served in all ranks, right up to generals and even an admiral. We're all veterans, which is a rank we recognise. The organisation has simply grown and grown, and today SAMVO has 4 zones that represent our 2,419 active members who now live in 36 countries around the world. The zones are SAMVO, Australasia, SAMVOSA, South Africa and Africa, SAMVOE, Europe, SAMVOTA, the Americas. We have recognised the need for the organisation to merge with our respective host countries' Memorial Days, which differs quite substantially from zone to zone, with just perhaps Armistice Day probably being the only common one. So each zone is independent, but aspires to common constitution and identity whilst retaining its individuality. We have an excellent website and Facebook that encourages our veterans to communicate with each other from around the world. We have prospered membership-wise with the help of volunteer members who give freely of their time to the extent that we have a viable organisation with volunteers giving support and thanks to our veterans for their services. For 19 years now, we have never had any joining or ongoing fees, as we believe implicitly that our members have more than paid their dues by virtue of their service. SAMVO is a full member of the Council of Military Veterans Organisation in Pretoria, which is the duly appointed management body for all recognised military veteran organisations of the South African statutory forces. Therefore, all our members in all zones around the world are fully represented in person by our appointed delegate. The SAMVO, in turn, links directly into the Department of Military Veterans and is also affiliated with the World Veteran Federation. This body has direct access to the Department of Veteran Affairs on all veteran-related matters. SAMVO is most importantly active working with the SAMVO and SANDF to find a way to roll back the backlog of SADF medals due to our members. SAMVO is well positioned in terms of medal applications as we maintain a structured line into SANDF ceremonial in Victoria, and our SAMVO head office in Johannesburg keeps track of all applications. We facilitate follow-ups and we provide guidance on what members might have earned. Working with the SAMVO, we are very close to finding a solution to this problem. SAMVO offers help with documentation for those South African domiciled members or veterans who might qualify for benefits under the Department of Military Veterans and wish to submit a claim. We help by ensuring that members in need of medical help are hospitalised at military hospitals. SAMVO also provides for needy veterans with our Safe House project, where we make temporary accommodation available to South African domiciled veterans who are waiting for housing benefits from the DMV. SAMVO members join our virtual presentations on Zoom that takes place monthly on the first Thursday of every month. This is coordinated from Australia by veteran Joe Cater, and we have excellent speakers, all experts on their subject matter. We have a very effective website on www.samvo.international, and you'll find it very informative on a variety of subjects, covering many topics of interest that include stories on well-known South Africans and, more importantly, recognizing the service of those who have passed to higher service. We have always been about remembrance, equality, brotherhood, respect, and reconciliation. We welcome all South African veterans to join us and become part of our vision. Thank you, Fossey, for this opportunity.
Tony, I thank you. It's imperative for folk to go to the website. All or most of the information that you've shared with us is there in some form or other on a variety of different pages. The form to join is also available there. As I'm a member. I think I joined up in 2020.
Quite some time ago, yes.
Yeah, I'm a sort of a dormant member. I can also say, yeah, that Tony tried to get me involved in the European operation. Let's just call it an operation. And I've hesitantly said yes, and then I said no, and then I said yeah. I think I've found my home now in Legacy Conversations. So Tony, by repaying all your friendship and your putting up with me, let's put it that way, this is why, one of the main reasons why I want you to chat with us about the organization worldwide. But I'm saying to you, non-members of SAMVO, it's easy to join. And I'm going to reiterate what Tony has said there. It's free, people. It's free. And they freely give, the members freely give of their time to help you to become part and parcel of this veterans organization. We are here to help you guys like you guys are helping us. So I say thank you very, very much. There was something caught my attention on the website. You have a museum running, am I right?
Yes, we have a very comprehensive museum running at Belmont RSL in Perth, you know, one of the suburbs of Perth. You'd be amazed at what is there. It's quite substantial. And we've got lesser museums. In fact, I've got one here at home virtually in my shed. And that the challenge is really to try and get these into places where, you know, our members of our host nation, in our case, Australia, you know, get to see these and get to understand the traditions of our regiments and so on. And you know, the South African traditions are incredible when you consider that, you know, there's not much like it in Australia. It's a bit different. You know, they don't have a lot of the traditional regiments or colour parades like we used to have and so forth. So, yeah, it's I think you'll find there's still something I must say though, that we also include all four corps and the SAP, of course. You know, members from all of that join us, and as we've said, there's no cost to joining. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say, Fossey. Just come along and join us.
I think it's as simple as that. Once again, I'm going to include the link here for the website. It's simple. I'll even include the link below directly to the page for the application form. And as Tony has mentioned, the medals situation, I don't have to rehash, apart from the fact that I do believe that it takes quite a bit of time for the wheels to turn to get medals, lost medals returned and the likes. Once again, I'm going to say you have a terrific organization going, and it's just beneficial to veterans to come and to join you. So I'm going to say thank you very, very much. With this provisor, I would love for SAMVO International worldwide, the 4 time zones, to hear from you guys. If you have anything planned, as I've said, let us know. Record. Also, welcome you guys to come and tell your stories here. The email address will be left here towards the end. In 2020, when I originally started communicating with Tony, there was a bit of a misconception that I felt that I was treading on toes, or certain people made me feel that way. That's not the case. SAMVO is there solely to support veterans. Our aims and our causes are all mutual. We're all here. Brotherhood came out strong there. Camaraderie, that's what it's about, folks. Tony, I'd like you to tell us a little bit more at a different day, maybe. If you feel there's anything else to add, yeah, please do so. Your structure, I know that you've mentioned one name there, and I think he's key. Garth is key with a museum link. Am I right?
So correct, Garth. That is Garth's project, and I mean he's an amazing guy. In fact, one of his tasks is to try and now establish a standard around the world. And obviously South Africa, where we're getting more and more members joining us. I mean, SAMVOZO is growing out of sight. There's all that, they've got the museums and everything they need, but in other countries, in the 35 other countries, you know, there's a need to have these museums. Now that's what Garth is looking into right now. He's a major player on that side, yes.
Now, if you nudge, wink, wink there, if you show him to come and tell us a little bit, prod him in the back there. You think he will?
Well, I think so. In fact, we had a global meeting on the 9th of September, and we had 2 people from the USA, 2 from the UK, 2 from South Africa, and about 4, I think, from our part of the world. And one of the suggestions that came up was, how can we share our museums? So the webmaster came up with the idea, why don't we have a virtual museum presentation that's on the website? So people can see the Belmont Museum, they can see all the other little museums we've got around the place, and all they have to do is just go onto the website and have a look. We thought that was a great idea.
I think it is a great idea, but I'm going to give you one more addendum to that idea. I love my addendums. Anyway, the addendum would be that before or when you're introducing it on your website, the person who is taking that particular video, come and share it here with us too. Then we'll post it, and then people will know to come and have a look, see.
All right, yeah, good idea.
Always, I'm going back to your website, to you. So it'll be terrific. I mean, if you want Garth to start it off and go take a walk through there and show us what's there, it doesn't have to be long. It's a tool and for you guys to use, and that's what Legacy Conversations is about. We're having a conversation about our legacy, our veterans organization's legacy, and I really can't emphasize that enough, Tony. I'm really excited about getting you guys involved fully at Legacy Conversations.
You know, something that you guys must really think about, and it's convenient for you, Fossey, in a way. At 7:30 on the first Thursday of every month, you obviously have to be a member to come on. But we've got an expert talking about this time about how we took 2 damaged Mirages and built one out of it. And these are the kind of discussions we have at these Zoom meetings. They are incredibly interesting. We've had Querson, who has been talking about the Bushmaster out here, which is now in Ukraine, and doing very well. And that morphed out of what he did in South Africa. So, and that's what's happened. And that was last month's discussion. So there's some very, very interesting things on the go.
And I do believe that you can go back and look at that if you have registered.
If you've registered, yes, you can get a recording of that. So we do that in sympathy with the guys who, you know, might be in the middle of the night for them. So at least they can get to see it. Yeah. Well, Fosse, you know, once again, thank you and to Legacy for the opportunity to talk about what is my passion, and that is, you know, veterans. We all come from the same background, and we all went through much the same sort of thing, but perhaps in different roles. But at the end of the day, you know, we're veterans of an army that did exceptionally well at our time. So thank you for this opportunity, and certainly I will make arrangements to get others of our organisation to talk to Legacy. With that, good night. Thank you very much. It's night time here, by the way. Good night, and thank you very much for the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. It is much appreciated. Really appreciated. And Tony has now promised, you all heard Tony promise that we're going to hear a lot more about SAMVO and its members. Yes, you're going to come and speak with us. Others of you seeing this, go and look at the website, please. Once again, I'll say the links are below. And also contact us if you've got a story that you want to share. The email address here at Legacy Conversations included here now. But for all of you, ek sê weer eens mense baie dankie vir al julle ondersteuning. Thank you for your support. Much appreciated. And as always, until we speak again, God bless.
You too. Fosse, you might have picked up that I mentioned that 2 South Africans were killed in action in Vietnam. And I don't think there are many people who know this fact. There's been a bit of research going on, and it's not really research because I knew one of them. His name was John Molyneux. John went right through high school with me in a small, relatively small college in Pietermaritzburg. And we were buddies right through from about the age of 13 till we matriculated. And but John went off there. He was born in Chicago, but he was a naturalized South African. He was going to go to do his university studies in America, in Milwaukee, I think it was. And but he was going to come back. Anyway, he went off, did his degree, and then I think he got caught by conscription because he obviously had dual citizenship. He was a lieutenant in the US Marines, and he actually was in Vietnam when he stepped on an anti-personnel mine and was killed. That was in 1968. Second guy was interesting because you mentioned yourself about helicopters and so on. The second guy was a guy called Lofty Murray. He was called Lofty because he's a very tall bloke. But anyway, Lofty started his career in the South African Navy. But he thought, no, hang on, I want to fly. Very much like my dad. My dad started off in the Navy as a signaller, and then he flew torpedo bombers. But anyway, Lofty went off and he joined the South African Air Force, and he became a fighter pilot. And he served there for quite some considerable time. And then he decided that he was going to fly for the Canadian Air Force. So he went off and but I think of the Canadian Air Force, he was flying more like transport planes rather than fighter planes. Anyway, he did that. And then the RAF got hold of him. And I think there were planes called the Lightning at the time in the 60s, flying Mach 2, I believe. They're very fast. I think they were sort of top of their class at the time. Anyway, Lofty then flew for the RAF as a fighter pilot. But he'd married an Australian girl, and they had 2 children, I understand, by that time. So they moved back to Australia, and he joined the Australian Air Force. And this is just before Vietnam. However, he was battling to get into the fighter wing side of it. So he was flying what is known as a Huey helicopter, which I think is something like a Puma. No, it's not like an Alouette or something like that. It's quite a big helicopter. Anyway, yeah, so and unfortunately he was shot down in Vietnam and killed. And in fact, just recently on the 18th of August, we had our Vietnam Day, and one of the guys I was speaking to, I mentioned, look, by the way, do you know that 2 South Africans were killed in Vietnam? Well, he said, geez, Bob Green's his name. Bob said, oh, Tony, you got to lay a wreath, man. So I said, no, okay, I'll be happy to do that. And, you know, it's this business of going around to a local RSL, another veteran organisation, a local one, where you're one-on-one with these guys and they get to know you. And just something like this, I think, made it very special for them. They realised that, you know, the 2 South Africans actually had died in Vietnam, and so many Aussies actually died, and I suppose so many more Americans died. But it just so happened that one of the guys there at the chat after the 18th, you know, after the drinks after the 18th of August, said, hell, he was right next to where that helicopter came down. So it's so interesting how close things can be. Yeah, so that's the story. That's we had 2 South Africans killed in Vietnam, a little known subject. Little known fact.
Extremely rare bit of information there, Tony. And as you say, you actually knew one guy, you were at school with him. And
Yeah.
also then the second guy, the person there that you were speaking to, he was very close to it. So just as you say, it shows you how close these things can turn out to be.
Yeah.
Folk, you might have noticed that came out a bit out of the blue after we said our goodbyes. But we left the recording running, and that's what we get. Thank you, Tony. That's what this is about, recording history. Absolutely fantastic. So you're going to get 2 good nights out of us then, a good night and a good morning, or a good afternoon. Thank you very much, Tony. It's much appreciated.
Right. You keep well.
Thank you, Tony. We'll talk again.
Keep in touch. Keep
in
touch,
for sure. I'm going to nag you for more content. So yes, we'll keep in touch. Okay, that's me. All the best. That's the 2 of us out of here. Cheers for now.
And all the best to Ireland. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world that you live in there.
I agree with you to some extent. There's no tall mountains though. Anyway, yeah. I'm going to be quiet now and say bye-bye. Cheers, Internet.
Right, cheers.
Until we meet again, God bless.
Okay, all the best. Bye now.